for tuning in with us today. I'm Sergeant First Class Joshua Blair. I'm a healthcare recruiter at a Vancouver medical recruiting station, and I'm here with Lieutenant Crystal Marchese. She is a soon-to-be, and a little bit, a clinical psychologist. She's attending the program at a Pacific University, and she's assessing into her internship phase at Madigan Army Medical Center pretty soon. We've been working with her for a couple of years, and she's basically volunteered to come on and talk to us a little bit about her experiences, and we'll talk about clinical psychology with the military as a whole as well. So, ma'am, thanks so much for coming on with us today to talk about clinical psychology and the United States Army.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to start off by asking about some of the experiences you've had with the military population before coming into this program, your experiences in behavioral health and stuff like that.
Okay. So I am coming into, I have a master's degree in counseling psychology prior to starting my doctoral work. So I worked as a licensed professional counselor for 6-7 years prior to doing this. But during that time, I worked, had some positions working with a VA in Portland and Tucson and Central Texas, mostly research-oriented positions, looking at PTSD, TBI, and such. I then moved into working with active duty Marines at 29 Palms, and I worked for the family advocacy program there. And so a lot of that work is direct services with families who maybe are experiencing some type of domestic violence or child abuse. So it's pretty intense work. After that, I moved into working in the neuropsychology clinic at Madigan with the Army. And we saw retirees, we saw spouses of retirees. I did a lot of testing with them in that setting, neuropsych testing. So, and that's the last position that I had as a civilian with the DoD before I moved into my doctoral program.
That's awesome. One of the things that working with you as your recruiter that was so exciting for me was seeing this is someone that has already done so much for the military community, for the active duty community, people like me, and for veterans. And it was exciting to see that you wanted to continue this journey to become a commissioned officer where you could continue to serve the veterans population. So I was curious when, going through that, what were some of the things that led to you to looking at the Health Profession Scholarship Program and clinical psychology and ultimately applying for it?
Yeah. So, in terms of my career moving forward, I felt like working as active duty, being active duty and working kind of within the system that way was the next natural step for me. But I couldn't do that with the work that I wanted to do with an LPC. So doctoral level, a doctorate was required. I think that, what led me to HPSP was, obviously I had to have a doctorate to work as an active duty psychologist. But the support through the scholarship is helpful, especially with the PsyD program, which is obviously more expensive than a PhD program. So it's nice to have the financial support that way. But really, the support that the program gives you in help bringing you up to be an Army psychologist, preparing you, especially, the recruiters have been great and preparing me for what I need to be knowledgeable with and to be successful. So it felt like the right thing to do, the right step to take to set me up with my career.
All right, ma'am. Thanks so much for that. That's a little confidence boost for me. So I know you're in your final year, kind of moving into your internship year. And for a lot of students, this is one of their most challenging years. You're working on your dissertation, you're doing a lot of pretty challenging stuff. I know you talked about an active duty training stint. You talked about a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
During this final year. Do you feel like a lot of that stuff was, a big deal, or were you able to complete all your studies and everything with pretty minimal distractions?
The latter, for sure. It was made very clear to me that the Army was there to support me. Like, you are a student first. We're not getting in the way. That is the most important mission right now. And even, during interviews, there was lots of discussion about, like, we want you to get done. We want to support you, how we need to support you to get your dissertation done. Like, don't worry about anything. We'll take care of it. Just do school. So it has not been, other than, filling out paperwork and planning for DCC and Bullock and all that, it's been minimally intrusive on the process, on the school process.
Awesome. So again, you have applied to a bunch of internship sites, and you got accepted to one pretty much right up the road at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Madigan. You've lived there in the past, so it's not foreign territory for you. How did that process, applying for internship, how did that work with the military process?
So there's a lot of overlap, but there's some differences as well. You complete your API, you go through, you select all the Army sites as sites that you're going to apply to. You, write your cover letters for the sites, just like you would with any other civilian site. But I think the only difference that I really noticed was just the application for the CPIP program, which was fairly easy on my part. I think I just had to give you all my stuff again so you could send it in. So it was really pretty much the same. There wasn't much of a difference for me.
So when you were going through that internship process, did you have to visit all the sites or anything like that?
So I did. I ended up getting invited to all 4 sites. And I did go to all 4 sites. It was always an option to do a Skype interview, and that was not they made it clear that was not going to be something that would hurt you in the selection process specifically. So, but I did end up going to all 4 sites. Yeah.
Awesome. So was JBLM your number 1 site?
Yes.
How's it going, Captain King?
Hi. Sorry that technology problems these days.
It's completely okay, ma'am. I was having issues myself getting this set up, and so we actually started a couple minutes late. So in case you guys may have met or not, Lieutenant Marchese, this is Captain King. So Captain King is actually one of the interns at Madigan right now.
Actually, Sergeant Blair, we got paired as I am her technical sponsor.
Yeah.
So we have met.
Okay, that's really cool. I did not know that. So I'm sure you've heard a huge amount about the internship at Madigan from Captain King, and so I guess a question I'd have for you both, and I'll go over a couple other questions as well. For new students looking at clinical psychology that are just coming into it and they see this long road ahead, or new students coming in, applying for the scholarship or internship or whatever stage, what advice would you guys, or words to wisdom you guys would give to these new PsyD students?
I think for me, just just take everything one step at a time. Don't to focus on what needs to be done in the near future. So if you need to get your classes done so you can get into clinic, do that. If you need to propose your dissertation topic, focus on that. Don't focus on the stuff that's like internship and all of that. So you can start thinking about it, but don't focus too heavily on that before the time comes, because it can just feel daunting and like you're never going to get there, and you don't know if what you're doing is right and all of that. So I think that would be my biggest piece.
Yeah, I agree with all of those things. Those are really good pieces of advice. Definitely the dissertation, whatnot, and making sure you're passing everything, obviously. And just getting really good at the clinical skills so that when you get to internship, you don't have to feel like you have to do both, where you're learning the Army side as well as the clinical, while they really focus on the clinical side heavily in the internship year and then a little bit more of the Army side on the postdoc year. You just really want to have like a solid ground in clinical work going into it. So I'd say just really focus on that, and then also maintain your physical fitness as well, especially with the new ACFT.
So, I mean, that's really good advice. Both of you gave really incredible advice. So, Captain King, a question for you. You're pretty much getting close to the end of the internship. You went through the scholarship and you went through that transition from the scholarship to the internship. Already did all that moving stuff. How was that space for you, moving from here in Oregon, going on up to JBLM? Was it pretty smooth? Were some bumps? How did that go?
I think it actually went really smooth. I think after ending up getting to DCC and hearing some horror stories, I was like, oh, mine was a breeze, no problem at all. I think the internship site itself has a ton of support that they give people. And so you're not just really going to be floundering at any point on your own. There's a lot of support. There's a lot of people you can talk to. There's a lot of people that give you their number just to be like, if you run into any issues, call me or whatnot. So I didn't have any issues. None of my intern cohort mates had any issues that I had heard of that were like horror story like. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of helpful people and there's a lot of people willing to answer any questions you have. And I think the military as a whole is such a large system that it's impossible to know the answer to everything. So I think there's a general understanding that if you're asking, people understand why you're asking for help.
So a question I have for you, ma'am, Captain King. So you're going, coming up October, you're going to be graduating with your PsyD, and you're going to be going into your postdoc, right?
Yes.
So for you, for the internship phase, how has that went? Has it been really good? Have you been challenged on a lot of things? What have your experiences been with that internship?
Yeah, it's actually exceeded all my expectations, honestly. I'm really, really happy to be here at Madigan. I think it's an amazing base and also just amazing training program. I have definitely been challenged in a lot of ways, every possible way, probably, intellectually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's just been really high expectations, but high support as well in this environment. They really push you to become independent thinking practitioners and whatnot, and clinicians. So it's been really awesome. I've enjoyed it. And I think there was another part of your question that I'm missing, but I had another thought too. So it might come back to me. But was there a part of your question I missed?
I did kind of wonder about your
I was
post.
going to mention COVID.
Okay.
Has kind of messed up the timing of things. So it's kind of hard to say like, oh yeah, internship year is great. It's been a little bumpy, I guess, because of that. It's changed a lot of things. But even still, despite that, people have been able to adapt and make our internship and still prioritize our training as well, and not just have that fall by the wayside during this pandemic.
Now, you're in the process to applying for your postdoc as well, right?
So the way that I think most of the sites work is that you will stay at the site unless there's a very specific reason why you have to leave the site for postdoc. So we will go to, well, it's actually unsure, but at some point we'll go to Bullock, and at some point we'll go to Aeromed, and then can start our residency year, postdoc year. And then most people stay on. It's not mandatory, but most people choose to continue it, and I'll definitely choose to continue it.
Yeah, I mean, as being, for most clinical psychologists, that's really important. There's only, if I remember right, I was kind of doing some research. There's only like 13 states that say, hey, you don't need a postdoc to be
Right.
but, if you live in one of those 13 states, it's not too big of a deal. But for the other 37, you really want to have that postdoc. But other than that, your experiences at JBLM, everything's been pretty awesome for you. Okay.
Yes,
Awesome.
definitely. Yeah, and it's been an amazing base as well. Just a lot of cool ruck march areas as well, and nothing like walking through the woods right outside your building.
I was actually stationed there in 2010 for my nursing program. It is gorgeous. I love it there. So, do you guys have any closing statements or anything for anyone that might be listening about the program? Anything you might want to impart?
I think that clinical psychology within the Army itself is a really robust. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of stuff that we can do within the military and within the Army. So if this is something that you're looking to do, I'm a resource. I know all of my fellow interns would love to be resources as well. Everyone's very passionate about this work. It's really unique, though, to be able to be in uniform alongside the people that we serve for the mental health side of it. And so it's just a really unique, and honestly, I've felt it to be a really special opportunity to be able to serve this population. So a lot of different opportunities within the Army itself for psychology, and just a great population to serve. So that's kind of my summary.
I think to add on to that, the training that you get and I'm going to get is just unsurpassed, I think. Beyond, and this is probably biased, but beyond what you would find in a civilian site, you get a little bit extra. And it's really an honor to be able to be selected to do this work. And it's an honor to be called in this direction, I think. So it's just a really special experience, kind of from start to whatever the finish looks like, I'm sure. So.
Well, thank you so much for those parting words. And I just wanted to thank you both so much for being a part of this and sharing your experiences as clinical psychologists, future clinical psychologists. I also wanted to thank your guys' willingness to serve. And hopefully someday I'm leaving for Fort Bliss back to nursing. I can work alongside you guys. So it's going to be an honor for me then as well. But thank you so much for coming on and helping with us today. Ma'am, you have a wonderful day, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Good to see you again.
Okay. All right, Sergeant Appice.